County. I like to call it a third-tier suburb of Washington, D.C. It didn't know it was a suburb until about 5 years ago, and then people started commuting those 45 minutes to get into the city. I'm joined by the Reverend Scott Sammler-Michael, who serves the Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church in Burke, Virginia. We are co-ministers in the sense that we have read one another's sermons, we steal one another's books, and the story we have to tell about when we first met begins in seminary. We bring greetings from the Washington, D.C. area congregations, a place where Unitarian Universalism thrives thanks in part to the powerful evangelical ministry of the Reverend A. Powell Davies, and in part to the culture of our region, a culture that refuses to be stymied by seemingly intractable obstacles. And we bring with us the work of our colleague, the Reverend Nancy McDonald-Ladd, who serves the River Road congregation in Bethesda, Maryland, and Paul Roach, who is currently serving as the Board of Trustees in my congregation in Sterling, and who is right now on a beach in St. Thomas. And he told me that he would have rather been here with us, which is insane. But why he makes an excellent board president. It's a joy to serve with him. These compatriots began this journey with us 3 years back, and their voices are woven throughout our work. I'd like to read a few statements to you, and I welcome you to stand or raise your hand if the statement I'm reading resounds with what you are feeling, with what you are experiencing. Talking about politics makes me uneasy. I'm concerned that this keynote, and especially the question and answer, they're going to turn ugly. Oh shoot, I'm in the wrong room. You had to get me back for the cucumbers, didn't you? I've had 7 cups of coffee and I am still tired. I really struggle to talk with people who belong to a different political party than mine. If my congregation became a place where people across the political spectrum were welcome, I would no longer feel welcome. If my congregation became a place where people across the political spectrum were welcome, I would no longer feel welcome. Thank you. Thank you. We are blessed by your testimony, and we are held by your honesty. May we be worthy witnesses as we go forward today. So this is my story. This is a photo of my family. When we traveled together to Israel and we were on a tour group, one of the participants on the tour group pulled me aside later and said, "I didn't know you were a family. I thought you were 3 Norwegian bodyguards and 1 Jewish woman." But the Jewish woman is my mom in the sunglasses. She's actually from the UC area. It's me in the hat, of course. That is my father, who I say I am his twin. We look very much alike. And then there's Reverend Scott just poking up there, trying to make a place for himself in this picture. And so I would like to say that these are definitely big personalities, because if anyone is keeping Reverend Scott from the photo, they have got to be big personalities. So I grew up in Connecticut, just across the Long Island Sound from y'all, and in fact, I looked across that sound many a day as I worked at a beach lifeguard in Madison, Connecticut, waving at you, especially on the boring days, waving at you and the seagulls. I attended the church at the end of our street with my parents when I was younger. It was a Congregationalist church. And we felt at home there for the most part until a new minister came in, and the new minister was preaching a lot about the sinfulness, especially the sinfulness even of children, that we all have original sin, that even children carry that stain of sin. And my mother, I mentioned she was Jewish before. The reason I did is because that's not something that you can abide if you're Jewish. The original sinfulness of children, it is not right and proper. And so we had to move from that faith community to one where she felt, and we all felt, that we could be held and loved. And we found a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Hamden, Connecticut. And this was wonderful for a while. It was especially wonderful when we first came in because my parents, they're theater people. And when we first came into this place, the welcome, the outreach, the civility that was offered them was an invitation to help with the church play. And so the first Unitarian Universalist experience that my parents had was building rocks out of styrofoam and making smoke go across the stage at the right time. And so they knew this was a place where they could contribute and feel at home. And that worked for a good long time. And then by the time I was in youth group, I noticed that my parents were just dropping me off in the high school youth group and not staying for the services anymore. And it took a lot longer before I had the courage to ask them, so what happened? This was your home, you loved this place. We would talk about the sermons for hours after service on Sunday. Why did you stop going? My parents are Republicans. And they started to feel in our congregation that had embraced them in every other beautiful way, that they were not welcome for their political beliefs. They felt ostracized, shunned, pushed out. They never felt like it was their home again. They'll go to Unitarian Universalist congregations, but only when I'm preaching. I tell them there are lots of other, and you, there are lots of other services and ministers out there, but they're scared. They're still scared to this day. This story informs my ministry, and it informs our call to do this work and deliver this talk with you. And I have to admit that at times the bonds between my parents and I were strained themselves when we got into political conversations. Suddenly we were no longer daughter and mother, who was daughter and mother especially, talking about issues. We were suddenly pundits screaming across a table at one another, using the rhetoric that we had learned, that we had heard, using that rhetoric against one another. And no longer seeing one another as the holy, human, beautiful people that we had come to love and trust. That story also informs my ministry. We, Reverend Scott and I, and all the others whose contributions imbue our work with meaning, bring you this conversation not to place blame. And most pressingly, not to dwell on the tedious and tenuous issues themselves, but to announce our wholehearted faith that Unitarian Universalism can be so much more than it is today. We bring you this talk because we are sick and tired of the demonizing partisan ideology that has crept into our national landscape and at times our congregational fold, and stolen us, body and soul, one from another. We bring you this talk because the authority that lays claim to the whole of our identity, the authority that crams the whole of our beauty into the confines of a single label, is an unholy authority that we, especially as Unitarian Universalists, are called to overthrow. We bring you this talk because we love you, and we love Unitarian Universalism. So why are we here? Well, we're here to be here together. It's as simple as that. We covenant as individuals gathered together in congregations. Our principles are covenants. We covenant to affirm and promote. We covenant when we yearn to build between us a beloved community where all can be heard and none shamed for their truth. So will you covenant with us this morning? Here is our covenant. Perhaps you can read these through together. Be quick to hear and slow to speak. Respect the privacy of those who confide. Speak your truth in love. Absolutely no analogies that rely on Nazis, fascists, or Stalinist Russia. Call others and be willing to be called back into the covenant. Will you abide by this covenant?
Yes.
Will we? Yes. We will. Thank you. We come into this room with strong feelings. We come into this room brave and ready to wrestle with difficult material. We come into this room because 7 cups of coffee was not enough and we made a wrong turn. No matter the reason, know that you are welcome to bring your full selves here. So who else is here with us? Some of my work in this Beyond Partisan Divisions focus has been collecting the stories of others, collecting the stories of those especially conservative Unitarian Universalists who perhaps don't have a voice in our congregations as often as they might wish. And so we have 2 monologues to hear today, 2 monologues of these stories. And we have 2 wonderful dear friends of mine who will be sharing, dear friends of ours who will be sharing these.